Saturday. We don't have the time yet. We don't have the other team yet.
Yeah.
But opponent, that's a good word.
Opponent.
We don't have the opponent yet. But it's going to happen.
Their op. I got ops.
Yeah. On Saturday, game 1 here at home. And then game 2 Monday here at home 1 week from tonight. And then they will hit the road. I mean, what? Most likely they'll play the Tigers?
No, I mean,
No?
Houston's good. And I think they got home field advantage. So,
all right. Well, you will.
I'd rather play the Tigers than Houston.
Yeah.
I don't like that team.
You will hear all of them here on WMMS. Again, we are anticipating that the Guardians would play in the afternoon game because the Yankees get prime time. So we'll get that information very, very soon. Today is the last day if you're going to do any shopping at CLE Clothing Company. Today, last day of September, very last day to use the promo code GUARDIAN, and then we'll pivot to a different promo code starting tomorrow. October 1, already tomorrow. Erie, E-R-I-E. Like the little body of water we have over here. You can use that for 20% off whatever you want at CLE Clothing Company. I don't know if you guys have heard about this girl. Her name is Hawk Tua. They call her the Haley Welch girl.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, she is really blowing up. I don't know if this clip has made the rounds, but it is absolutely hilarious.
What's one move in bed that makes a man go crazy every time?
Oh, you gotta give him that Hawk Tua and spit on that thing. You get me?
Oh, I'll tell you what. I'm predicting big things for this girl. Her podcast.
Yeah, but there's no way her podcast will end up being like a top podcast in the country.
Oh, it's funny you say that.
Oh, no.
It's funny you say that. Reports of her demise have been greatly exaggerated. Every time she comes out with something new, people go, all right. But she's just so gosh darn nice and cute that people have given her a little bit more of a leash than they might otherwise. And plus, on her podcast, because apparently that's the place to be, she gets good guests.
Mm-hmm.
Her podcast is called Talk Tua, which I have to say
Great name.
is a great name for a podcast. It's on the iHeartRadio app, and it is currently, at least as far as Spotify goes, it is currently the number 3 most popular podcast behind Joe Rogan and Tucker Carlson. Can you believe Tucker Carlson is the number 2? There's a part of my brain where I go
Spotify ratings.
Yeah, but still,
I
that means a hell of a lot of people are listening to Tucker Carlson and Roseanne babble about whatever. Anywho, Haley Welch's Talk Tua podcast is currently number 3. She's had. I still think about the guy who asked her the question, right? Here's 2 dudes. They might have a huge following. I don't know. I'm not familiar with them. Tim and DTV. A guy's walking around talking to people. But she blew up, and I don't know if anything happened for those guys, if the needle moved, but she sold thousands of Hawk Tua hats. She's made about $100,000 in merch sales. You still sell merch at shows, Mary?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I have CDs, both Hillbilly Bougie and Nothing Matters. I want something new, but I just haven't pulled the trigger yet.
Gotcha.
No Hawk Tua hats, but what you can do?
Bill is real stickers.
Bill is real.
Mm-hmm.
So her first episode was Whitney Cummings, and it's Jake Paul's company that produces her podcast. So, he's going to be on. But again, there's a little bit of calculus, too, that you have to figure out. You want to be on, if you're a guest, you want to be on this show while it's hot. You don't want to be on it, really, when it starts to peter out, and you never know when that is. I mean, you can obviously look at your track your data and your listens and all that, but she's killing it right now. The Hawk Tua girl. Talk to. Now, have any of us actually listened to this?
No.
No. I'm curious enough to maybe listen to a few minutes of it, at least her and Whitney Cummings. By the way, somebody did a write-up on a Whitney Cummings show, And I'm curious, maybe you guys can tell me if this is getting to be more of the standard thing. I was reading somebody did a big write-up. Whitney Cummings just did a show at the Beacon Theater in New York. It's only 2,600 people there. It's not huge, but she had 3 openers. Maybe I'm old school. You guys obviously would know better than I would. Been a long time since I was in the game. But I always think of it in terms of giving, for a theater show specifically, giving people a solid show as opposed to, I'm getting ahead of myself. So she had 3 openers. One of them was like a friend or something. So this girl's like, oh, I've never played to this many people. It was Ian Fidance and somebody else. And then Whitney does an hour. So like an hour into the show, Whitney comes out. Mm-hmm. Does an hour. Then pulls out a couple of chairs and starts doing a podcast episode with one of the housewives. So the person doing the write-up was like, she was great and the other people were great, but at this point, like, people are starting to leave the theater.
So long.
And
yeah,
I'm
that's
like,
a long show.
It's too much.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, is it pivoting to like people are just using their shows to record their content and whoever hangs out, hangs out? Or,
I've never seen that before.
Like she had a singer come out at the end so she could sing with her, and
and
they're like, we love Whitney Cummings, but Jesus Christ, I mean, who wants a friggin' 3.5, 4 hour show?
Yeah, that's not like anything that I've experienced, because even like seeing Segura last week, he had 2 openers. They did 10 to 15 each, and then he did an hour.
That's what I mean.
So it's like still about a 90, like maybe 100-minute show. But
what you would expect.
What you'd expect. I haven't seen anything like that. Even, Mark Normand they'll do like a Q&A at the end, more of a thing where people will like yell out a topic just so they can riff on those like more current event type topics and see if they get a clip out of it. But I've not seen anybody do a full podcast episode afterwards.
Do another day of that.
Yeah.
Or an afternoon show. Do that at 4 and then have the show at 7.
Like Jordan Jensen was just in town and she did 5 regular shows at Hilarities, and then Sunday did a podcast episode with Ian Fidance, and that was like a separate thing. It wasn't like
if you want to go to that, that's
what that thing is. Yeah, I haven't heard of anybody doing what Whitney did here, but maybe it's just like, hey, I'm going to try this out.
Yeah. Like Mateo landed Carnegie Hall, and he had 4 openers.
But you also have to understand that those people are probably only doing 10 minutes each.
If that.
They're not doing, 4 people aren't each doing 20 minutes.
No, I understand, but why? Like just putting pals up there?
Well, if you're doing a huge show, you want to put your friends in front of thousands of people. Hey, I think this comic's really funny. Here's an opportunity for you to be in front of 5,000 people.
Yeah, Mateo was just in town this past weekend, and he had River Butcher open for him, and love River. So like that's a cool opportunity, and I don't know I don't know that he had more than that, but like it's a good, you can make a really good living if you are opening for theater acts and arena acts.
Yeah, but she's not like still she?
He.
Sorry.
Yeah.
He is not a newbie.
No one's
been doing it a long time.
But who said anybody's a newbie?
No. We're talking about like putting your friends in front to give them 10 minutes to expose them. That's what the Whitney thing sounded like. They're like, this one girl said it was like her second show, but of course she had 200,000 followers on Instagram, so that's why she's up there.
Well, that might just, I don't see a lot of that. Because, I mean, most of the time, the people that are opening for an act like that are headliners.
Yeah. I wanted to put it to you guys because I didn't know if this was like the way theater shows were going.
Not usually.
Okay.
It's usually 90% of the theater shows I've been on are 2-man shows.
Yeah.
Where it's me doing a half hour or 20 minutes and then the headliner doing the rest.
Right.
Yeah, I would say it.
They usually don't even have a host.
Yeah, usually it's like 2 people or maybe a third. But I don't, But also, if you're doing Carnegie Hall and you go,
yeah, I do what you want to do.
I'm going to have a bunch.
I might never be here again, so why not? But yeah. No, yeah, anyway. Okay. I was curious. Alan, I had you guys blasting in the car with the top down. And I was just pulling into the neighborhood.
Where?
What's that?
I don't know. It's not really a top-down day. I feel
Isn't
like.
it really warm?
I mean,
out?
it's 70 degrees out, but it just with the cloudiness, it doesn't seem like.
Well, this person likes to drive with the top down, baby.
All right.
And volume was up, so I could hear the show. Oh, I needed to hear the show over the sound of the wind, and so I had it way up. And then I was pulling into the neighborhood, right as you were playing that guy calling you a homosexual, and all of the old people that were outside gave me dirty looks. Well, that's unfortunate. But I bet they've heard of gay people before, I would imagine. But he said it made my day. So there you go.
You homosexual!
Imagine you're coming around the corner of your cul-de-sac. Of course, cul-de-sacs don't have corners, do they? You're coming around a corner and into your cul-de-sac. And, just an old neighborhood lady. Maybe not even old. Maybe just somebody who's unnecessarily crusty. You know, every neighborhood there's like a crusty broad living in one of the houses.
No, explain more about the crusty broad.
And she'll have every neighborhood's got a crusty broad, right? Like she might be a widow, she might be a divorcee, and boy, you run into her. She's nice enough. She'll give you a piece of her mind. Won't hesitate to give you a piece of her mind. You lived out in the sticks. You don't know. Mary grew up in a neighborhood.
Yeah,
I bet there was.
I
bet there was a crusty broad in your neighborhood.
There was a lady at the end of the street. Nobody was. I don't remember what her backstory was, but we weren't allowed to go to her house. She'd yell at us when we'd play in her yard. She was just like a mean old lady.
Yeah, crusty broad.
I don't know that she was crusty, but
well, you say
she
mean.
handed out popcorn balls at Halloween.
Yeah, what's the matter with that?
That's crusty broad behavior.
Yeah, nobody wants that.
I loved popcorn balls when I was a kid. My grandma would make them at Christmas.
Oh, I've never had a homemade one. I've only ever had the ones that come in the plastic.
Oh. Well, I mean, she would wrap hers in saran wrap.
No, the ones you buy at the store.
Oh, no, I've never had a store-bought one. My grandmother would make them. So as a result, I have not had a popcorn ball.
Was she a crusty broad?
In a decade. My grandmother?
Yeah.
No, she was a lovely woman.
But maybe to you, but maybe to the neighborhood.
No.
She was a crusty broad.
Nope.
She was
universally loved.
What I'm saying is you may think these women are crusty, but they might be somebody's grandma, and they might not be that crusty to them.
Oh, I see. Mm-hmm. To their grandchildren, less crusty.
Don't crust a broad that you don't know.
True. Well, again, I want to make a distinction because I have called both groups out. There is a distinction between crusty broads and old crones. I did call a woman an old crone years ago, and I regret nothing. But crusty broads and old crones...
What's the
two
difference?
Different. Well, I think a crusty broad, there's still some humor to her, you know?
Okay.
Maybe a little bit of a wink and a nod, but she'll tell you what she thinks. Okay. An old crone is just mad every day she wakes up. Doesn't want to be here anymore. Generally, probably, I'd say older, right? Well into the old thing, where a crusty broad could still be like, hey.
50.
You know. Yeah, maybe.
70?
Yeah,
no.
she still might go to a couple.
50s and 60s, I feel like, would be a crusty broad.
Go to a couple of shows.
Childless.
You know how Maggie Smith passed away last week? 89 years old.
Yep.
Mary, you've seen Hook, right?
Uh-uh.
You never seen Hook?
Nope.
Oh, really?
Really?
Well, she played Granny Wendy in that movie, and they made her look 100 years old because she was supposed to be a very old lady. She was 56 in that movie.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's like when they talk about how young Wilford Brimley was in Cocoon.
Yeah. Maggie Smith has played old-ass ladies her whole, my entire life, and then I find out that she was only 56 when she was playing a 100-year-old. Now, did she do great in the role? Absolutely. But I felt like that was really insulting.
Stolen valor.
Yeah.
And the pictures of Maggie Smith when she was young.
Oh, she's gorgeous.
She was foxy. Alan, it was
She had big
Mrs.
stupid eyes, too.
It was Mrs. Edwards in my neighborhood across the street who was the crusty broad. I was her paper boy, meanest woman in the world, but during the holidays, great tips. I actually went into her house and found her dead in the chair when I was 11.
Oh, my God.
That's awesome.
That is great.
That's a great story.
Mrs. Edwards. She's already growing into her chair.
Why is that awesome or great?
When you're 11?
That's
to find
traumatic.
an old... No, not...
Why do you think Stand By Me is one of the most popular movies ever?
That's gotta
It's-
be a boy thing, then.
It's traumatic
Well,
if
it
it's like your parent. If it's just the old lady in your neighborhood, it's exciting and interesting.
Yeah,
I don't think so. I think that would have messed me up, dude.
it might have.
Like, big time.
You might be right.
Like, run
I
out
would've
of
loved
the
it.
house screaming at the top of my lungs.
Why? Just because a person is not living anymore?
When you're 11,
So
that's
what?
probably your first interaction with death.
You're not. Oh, please! I was
Other
going
than
to
maybe a
funerals
dog or
my whole
something.
life. Well, okay, then that's the difference. I mean, I was going to funerals my whole life.
No.
Okay.
My grandpa died when I was like 3 or 4. And then after that,
Did you
I
find
did
him?
not. No, I didn't experience death until my grandma after that, and I was like 14.
Okay, so you didn't really have a whole lot of
No,
experience.
my
with
grandma's funeral is the first funeral I remember going to.
I
and I was
see.
like 14 years old.
Okay.
And then, well, that's also why I think my dad's death hit me so hard, is because after that, I had one friend kill himself. He was in the military. And then after that, it was like nobody really died.
Well, suicide's a whole other deal too. Yeah.
But that's
maybe
what I'm saying,
just
like,
really uncomfortable with death. I
The
was like, I'm
distinction
not-
of it being somebody that is just like in your neighborhood that you like, oh, old people die anyway. Like, it's not like
I guess.
somebody that you love and care about. It's like, I'm just trying to get my paper boy money.
Trying to
And
get
then
them
you-
holiday tips.
And then you get to like, and then everybody's like, oh, you found her? How do you know she was dead? And you're like, get all this attention because you're like, I think there is the little boy in me would have loved to have found an old lady that wasn't a family member dead.
Well, this person texted me back, said, I'm all good. No trauma.
Wow.
Yeah.
Alan, would you consider Drunk Sue a crusty broad? That's what I'm talking
Yes.
about. Bullseye. Drunk Sue is a crusty
You haven't
broad.
heard from her in a minute either.
She called the week before. I think when you were gone, she called.
Oh, okay.
Me and it was a
She hasn't been on the chat lately.
Captain Fun and Stepmom Mayor show.
Woo.
All right, we got to go. Thanks for hanging out. Talk to you again tomorrow around 2 o'clock. What do you have coming up, William?
If you're a crusty broad, an old crone, or anything in between, come on out to the Funny Stop on the 11th and 12th of October. And then we'll be down in Canton. I got some stuff coming up at Imposters Theater and then also Columbus. All that is available at BillSquire.com. And thanks to everybody that came out to Wadsworth. It was a good show.
Ron and Willoughby's asking if that
Shut up, Ron.
if that person collected from Mrs. Edwards one last time.
Who went through her purse?
Yeah, went
Yeah.
into her house coat, a little pocket there. What do you have coming up, Mary Lynn?
The week after Bill's at Funny Stop, I'm there, October 18th and 19th, and then I'll be in Bentonville, Arkansas this weekend. Grab tickets and information at marysantora.com.
Very cool. I'm on your socials.